Okay, so I wanted to really quick explain the difference between the POS 18, this also comes with the POS 15, and the POS 180, which also comes with the POS 150. The difference between the 15 and the 150 versus the 18 and the 180 is simply accuracy over distance. If you're going to be shooting beyond 1,500 feet a lot, you're going to probably want to go with the 18 or the 180, simply because they get closer as you have to go further away towards longer distances. That's basically it. If you're not going to be doing that very often, you will not see a difference at all. But I want to explain the difference between the POS 18 and the POS 180. Basically, I've already done a few tutorials on this tool, but you can tell that this tool, to use it, not only do you need the head unit attached to the level, okay, you also need to have a tablet, and this will use radio to connect to the head unit. And usually, almost always, you're going to want the prism, because what this does is the head unit connects to the prism, and as you're connecting with the tablet, as you walk around your job site, the tool just follows you wherever you go. If you tell it to go to a certain coordinate, it'll direct you right to that coordinate. After you lock it in, you can just simply tell it to go wherever you want it, and it'll robotically move all on its own. So it's literally a one-man operation. You can also stand behind the tool. You can do the same thing with the other one, but you can stand behind the tool and zoom in on your targets. But the nice thing and the main thing about this tool is that after you set your targets, it will lock in and it will manually turn to wherever you want it to turn, and it will lock onto that prism and follow the prism. So it's extremely easy to use. It's a one-man operation, like I said. It's a great layout tool. If you need to lay out your job site, it's a great layout option, because you can literally just walk around with the tablet and the prism, and it'll show you exactly where you are on your job site and how close you are to the point you're trying to find. Okay, now, the 18 or the 15, whichever one you purchase, it's about $20,000 cheaper than that tool. And the main reason is because you could use a prism with this tool, but the thing is, this tool is not robotic in that it won't follow a prism, it won't lock onto anything. It's all manual measurements. It's simply you standing behind the tool, looking out into the field and taking measurements, whether you're focusing in on that target that somebody's out there with, or you're zooming in on pre-made targets, or you're checking the vertical alignment of such items. This tool does, the POS 18 does basically everything the POS 180 can do, except that it robotically moves with you when you have a prism, and it doesn't give you live readings of exactly where you are. You always have to press the measure button to figure out what it is. So why is it $20,000 cheaper? Well, the POS 18, because it's not robotic, it usually is a two-man operation unless you're doing very specific applications with it. On top of that, it might take you won't be able to lay out your job site very easily at all with that tool unless you have very few points. On top of that, you don't have the ability to lock onto a prism, which is so convenient, because once you lock onto a prism, it locks dead center on the prism, giving it the ability to be accurate to a dead 16th of an inch. So let me explain a little further how the tablet's used, this one doesn't use a tablet. On the back of the tool, you see basically the same exact applications that you'd see on the tablet for the POS 180 is on the back of this tool. So what you're doing on the 18 is you just have it set up. You can look through the eyepiece if you want, but you basically, right here, you choose whatever application you want. Here's a quick look at what the applications are when you open the tool, and then some other applications that you have that you can do as well without a CAD file. So still, you get a lot of good options, but again, this is cheaper for a reason. It's a two-man operation, a little bit less of an opportunity to follow a prism, but it's a great tool. The reason that we're successful with this is the Hilti's successful with this is because it's a great starter tool for people that want to get into total stations, but they're not ready to invest in a more expensive one, but they want to start trying one out. A lot of people, if they have the 180, they still want the 18 to do simple applications, because it's nice to just have set up to do some quick measurements, to do some vertical alignments that they can go back later and and use for a reference line, or to just check their steel beams to make sure they're ready to go. But again, the 180, the big selling point of the 180 is that it's a great layout tool, and that it follows the prism wherever you go, and it's more of a one-man operation. The 18 is more of an as-built tool. You can have somebody walking around with the staff, standing over points that are already laid out, and having somebody stand behind the tool and measure where they are to see if they're exactly where they're supposed to be. So again, it's not laying out necessarily, but it's a good one to check your points, to do some vertical alignments, to do some normal measurements that you'd make on a job site. It's dead accurate, but again, you're limited because it won't follow a prism. You always have to have somebody standing behind the tool and turning it with the knobs, but this one will follow you. I hope that's a simple enough explanation. Please feel free to comment and ask more, but that is the big difference. And yes, it is a $20,000 difference, and you will see as you use the tools how much of a significant difference it is when you start using a robotic one versus a manually used total station.